We're taking you on a journey to the heart of canoe country, the Northstar Canoe Factory in Minnesota. Join us as we explore the facility, meet the team, and learn about the process of crafting these exceptional canoes. Whether you're a seasoned paddler or just starting out, you'll love this behind-the-scenes look at Northstar Canoes.
How you doing?
Hey.
Bear, I'm Rob with Portage Mule. Great to meet you. So, today we are at Northstar Canoes in Princeton, Minnesota. We're here with Bear, who runs the facility and is a partner, I believe.
Yeah, kind of.
But he's the man behind the magic here. So he's been so gracious to us, and is going to give us a tour of the facility and just kind of talk to us about what makes Northstar such a great brand. So,
looking forward to it.
Yeah, appreciate you letting us come in, see everything that you got going on, and really looking forward to getting to know you and the facility a little better.
All right.
So,
well, should we take a stroll back?
You bet.
Everything originally. So, I'm passing by a lot of boat clutter. So, what we see here is all the rolls of cloth. That's what we get shipped into us. They get cut on the table into the right pieces for a canoe. And then you can see all the different models underneath in the boxes. So those are all pre-cut boats, basically. And so, cutting table, they come out, everything gets measured. We do a lot of what's called strategic reinforcement. And so the goal is to produce a lightweight boat that's strong. And so effectively what we do is use a full layer of cloth on the exterior and a full layer of cloth on the interior. But the whole middle of the boat has a lot of parts and pieces because we can put a lot of strength down low and not a lot up high in the boat. So that's how you build a lightweight boat. The other thing you do is you add some foam to create stiffness, and you still get durability from the Kevlar and then stiffness from the foam. So that's the start. And then we'll zoom over here. And what we're looking at right now is actually a whitewater boat. That's what's about to get laminated. And so basically, what's in that whitewater boat right now is a first layer. So what they've done is they've put a first layer into the boat, and they've let it cure. And then they're going to come back now and they're going to build the whole rest of the boat over the top of that. So that's all those pieces right there. So that's all going to unroll. They're going to put all parts and pieces in. They're going to put the final Kevlar in because all our boats are finished with Kevlar on the interior. And then it's going to go on the wet bag. They'll go on the vacuum basically. A couple boats on the vacuum at a time.
And how long does it sit through the wet bag process?
A couple hours.
A couple hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not an extremely, so it's really a three-stage process to pull off a boat. That first layer happens in the afternoon. The following morning, all the parts and partials, the foam core, all of that sort of thing go in, and the wet bag happens, vacuum bag. And after that, all this will get torn off when somebody gets a chance, and it'll get moved into the trim shop. A lot of people wonder how long it takes to make a boat, because that's usually one of the big questions. And the answer to that is 20-ish hours for what you see in the boundary waters, a Starlight aluminum trim. If you put wood trim on it, if you put carbon trim on it, those numbers go up a lot. They complain if they have to build too many of the heavy-duty whitewater boats because they have so many parts and pieces in those. Instead, with the Starlights, it's all the making of the foam and that kind of things, but all that's done ahead of time, so they don't have quite as much work right in the lamination process. But it's a team of 3 laminators. Travis, the closest one to us, has been with us since the Bell days. So since Bell, he was at Bell Canoe. He's been with us for quite a few years, more than 5, 7, not that long anymore. And Bailey's a little bit newer, but settling in really well. And that's our lam crew, super skilled.
So the process that they're getting ready to go through at this point with the resin that they're using, is that the same resin that would be used on the exterior of the canoe as well?
It is the exterior.
So this is the exterior part that they're getting ready to work on?
No. So what happened was, so if we swing that way and look at one of those orange molds,
yeah.
So that mold, we put a little bit of resin in, we wet that mold just a bit, and then that first layer of cloth goes in.
Okay.
So in the case of Kevlar, carbon, you name it, let's think starlight boat. In the case of a starlight boat, which is what's in the boundary waters, Kevlar goes in over that, just a little bit of resin, and then they're going to put a whole bunch more resin over that Kevlar with paint rollers, with squeegees, with paint brushes in the ends, because the hardest part to work on a boat, I'm just going to swing over to this, you know, getting your fingers in there, especially not moving the Kevlar around. So that's paint brushes and that other things. The guys doing the ends, Travis is the bow, because of course we want the bow to be as perfect as we can. Luke is the stern, same deal. And then they can kind of help and make sure that everything goes smoothly in the middle too. And Bailey's been at it for long enough that she's great at it, but a lot of times the middle person is a little less skilled.
And being that this is a resin and a two-part with a chemical reaction, what is their working time on getting through all of that? Are they making resin as they go?
They are. Yeah, no, Bailey's mixing it as they go.
Okay.
In fact, you can see her right now. She is literally just mixing a little bit of resin. She'll stir it. So it's a vinyl ester resin. It's a 50-to-1 ratio, so it's catalyzed with MEKP, methyl ethyl ketone peroxide. And she's going to stir it. They'll mix it. There's a pre-measured amount for each boat. You know, so we say, okay, you know, that one needs 2.5 quarters, that one needs 3 quarters, whatever it is. And she's going to come over and she's going to pour a little bit, and they're going to work it in, and she's going to pour a little bit more, and they're going to keep working it in gradually, because just like rolling paint or anything else, you've got to put it on little by little and make sure to saturate well, and get everything covered.
And that's in that process for that amount that is mixed up right now. What's the flash time on that? About 15 to 16 minutes-ish?
Yeah, something in that neighborhood. Less than half an hour.
I gotcha. Yeah, look at them pour that.
A lot depends. You can kick it hot, so it cures faster, or you can kick it a little slower just by increasing the MEKP, decreasing the MEKP.
Gotcha. So I recently refinished the bottom of the Northwind 20.
Yeah.
And so I've had my own experience working with this product. And when we're done, I'll have you take a look at my job, because I have some questions on where I went wrong. So it'll be interesting to see your take on it. However, again, you know, one of the things that I see here is that everything is done by hand. It's all you know, your canoe artists, so to speak. So it's not any kind of machine that's going in and applying these resins and different things. It's your personnel that are in here, basically putting their love of canoes into each and every canoe that you guys produce.
Yeah, there's no robots at all. I mean, it is one of those things. Each canoe is different too, which is what makes them amazing. I mean, people think that they should all just be absolutely perfect, and the truth is they're not. Each one varies just a little bit, because good Travis flip that Kevlar over a little bit differently on the bow. Did the backing bag make a little different wrinkle on a boat? You know, trim shop wise, did they just tweak measurement a little tiny bit because it looked better the way the boat laid out? Yeah, they do all that stuff. Because they gauge curves, they try to make a good looking boat as opposed to just stamping them out.
In a sense, you sell a custom boat to every person.
I do.
So there isn't any one that's identical, so everyone can say, I've got a one-of-a-kind Northstar.
Yeah, totally. Totally. They are pieces of art. You're right about that.
All right. And then where does the process move from here?
So once they're off the bag, and what happens while they're still in the mold is they get a dam, you know, so they get a piece of foam, Kevlar laminated over it, and then the flotation goes in. And so a lot of people wonder about flotation in the boats, and it's a 2-part marine grade pour foam. We spent a lot of time with an air tank years ago, and air tanks look pretty, but boy, oh boy, they don't do a great job because they require some sort of relief valve so they don't expand and contract so much. So this is a reliable way that doesn't have that tank plug, which can fail.
And for those of you that have watched a number of the videos, you know exactly how important this is. Because when you are a big guy like me in the back of the boat, and you manage to take everybody overboard with you, you know, the reality is when that happens, as scary as it is, trust that your canoe is going to float. And all you have to do is just maintain your hand on that canoe so that you can guide it to shore, but also it'll take some of the stress off of being fully clothed with all of your boots and long underwear at 50-degree weather and 50-degree water. So I can say that the Northstar Northwind 20 saved my life.
Again, no credit.
And Ben, being in the profession he is always calm. And I am thankful that the GoPros did go underwater at some point, and you didn't hear me screaming like a girl about how I was going to die, while Ben swam to the back to cut the anchor rope and save us, along with our Northwind 20.
So after the tanks, they get trimmed, and primarily what we do, and I'm going to swing over, is aluminum trim. This is what you see the Boundary Waters a ton of, because this is just reliable. You can leave it outside. We don't encourage you to store them outside, but you can store it outside. Still works really well for outfitters. It's the bulk of what we build. This is a repair. You know, one of our goals is to keep boats on the water for people. So if somebody calls us up and says, I don't want to do this, it's like, well, you got to give us time, but we'll do structural repairs because we want boats on water.
In addition to the structural repairs that you make for different outfitters and owners, you also do the refinishing for the bottoms and things like that?
We do. If you do it too badly, we can fix it.
Okay, perfect. So in the case of owning a Northwind 20, what is the cost to have you guys refinish the bottom?
If it's just below the water line, I think we're like $225. So,
Okay.
let's renew that. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately speaking, we want people to do it. And even if it doesn't look that great, it's just like a one-of-a-kind boat. I mean, it's story.
Yep.
Well, it's okay if it doesn't work perfectly. You know, I mean, we have a pretty temperature controlled, I mean, we don't have air conditioning in here, but we have temperature control and that end of things. When you do it at home, a lot of times your humidities are higher, your temperatures are swinging around, that end of things. So things don't go quite as perfect. I mean, you know, for the most part, most home repairs aren't as pretty as what we are capable of doing here. But we tell people flat out, we don't do cosmetic repairs. We won't try to make a boat look perfect. That's not our goal.
Yeah.
Our goal is to get boats to float so people can paddle.
Well, I think we've achieved that with my work.
See?
The real question is the drag factor from the bubbles.
That's what rocks are for.
Yeah. The pre-video of the bottom of it will prove that we find a lot of the rocks that are in the boundary block.
We will have no problem with that.
Yeah, no issues. So
Awesome. We also do a carbon trim. So this is the high end. We make the boat and then we make the trim separately. And so this is a way to make a little lighter weight boat, to make a little sexier looking boat, and to make a stiffer boat. And for most people, it's just, oh, that looks cool. I want that.
well, it does. You know, when you look at the thermoplastic caps, and then you look at these, it's almost like seeing a stealth bomber or a Cessna.
Yeah.
So now, what is the weight difference between the anodized and the?
It's only a couple pounds.
Is it?
Yeah, it is not a huge difference. So it's because we overbuilt these.
Gotcha.
We could build them lighter if we didn't do the outlail and the inwhale, if we just did an inwhale. We played with a bunch of different ways to make these things, and we can make them lighter than we do, but we can't make them so they're as functional and so they're as pretty as we do.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
gorgeous.
Yeah, that's the challenge. It's like we want something where you grab on and it feels just like our wood trim or our aluminum trim. We want the deck to be a structural member as opposed to, you know, we could have done them with a cap. But like you said, it's like, that's what we do on aluminum trim. Those are cheaper boats. Why would we make them nicer?
So then, in the spirit of naming things,
Yep.
how do you come up with the Firebird, the Trillium, the B Series, the Northwind? Like, where do the names come from?
We sit and argue about them, and a lot of times put it off because we can't make a decision.
Okay. So how did you come to Magic? To name the Magic?
Well, so some of the boats have historic names, and historic means the bell days. And so the Magic, you'd have to ask Ted Bell that one. I can't give you an answer, although I can say that there was at one point a Mystic as well.
Okay.
And so there was kind of the sorcery, it was going to be the sorcery or the Mystic, and it became the Mystic. And so the Magic and the Mystic were that.
The Opal and the Pearl.
Yeah, the gemstones.
Yep.
The North Winds are an old one too, and there was a time in the Bell days that there was a North Wind, a North Woods, a North Star, and then there was a Morning Star, and the Norse were the touring boats, and the Stars were the commie boats, the ones that could be solo or tandem. There's all a rationale for all sorts of stuff. For us, it was, we're going to make the North Winds, which are, you know, a series of 4 boats, depending on the size that you want. The B series is a series of boats, depending on the size that you want. The Phoenix is a rising from the ashes. That was this first real solo boat that Northstar did. And rising from the ashes, Bell, you know, all that sort of fun stuff. For anybody that doesn't know our Bell history, we were Bell Canoe Works for close to 20 years. And Northstar is a company with the benefit of hindsight, where we can look back at what we did in the Bell days and say, well, we could have done that better. We should have done that different. Let's improve it. And so we have all the benefit of all that experience. So Northstar's only been around 10 years. Bell was around for almost 20, and even predating that, Ted Bell had a racing company called the Wabash Valley in Indiana before that.
So then you celebrated 10 years last year, correct?
Yeah, 2014, February of 2014 is when we named Northstar.
Okay.
That was when the name came into
this is your 10-year anniversary. It's amazing. What goes into making these molds? I mean, to produce the mold in all of this stuff. Like, how does this take shape?
How does that become?
Yeah, how does that become?
Effectively, we build a boat to pull that shape off of to make sure that the sweep and the arc are correct. You know, in any case, what we're doing is fiberglass mat. So heavy-duty fiberglass that just holds its shape really well and is strong. It's a low-tech material, so it's something we'd never use in a boat, but it works great for building molds out of. The same thing's true of a boat mold. So this is the plug. Plugs are what we create molds from. So essentially what we do is we build a wood strip boat. So anything that exactly what a home builder does, except we don't try to make it at all pretty. And excuse me, we cover it, you know, Bondo, gel coat, you name it, all sorts of materials to fare it out as well as possible. To make that wood, which is an imperfect material, become more perfect in shape. And then once the plug is built, the molds will get built on the plug. So male plug becomes a female mold, which then gets turned over. And all that is, like I say, it's basically a lot of fiberglass mat. With that male plug, the fiberglass mat's going around it. And then finally orange tooling gel coat is what is making all these things orange.
Okay. Very, very interesting to see all of that. So that information was more for me than for anything else. I still love. I mean, I just love to know the process. You know, like you have a love for the canoes and making them and all of those things, but like to know where it came from. You know, when we're out on the water.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool because that's something Ben and I, it may not ever be in a video, but like we'll talk about being able to see these things and like, you know, as we notice things in our canoe, you know, as you talked about the different fabrics and stuff and how they're putting it together.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, never did I think that there would be an imperfection in my boat, but now I'm going to look for it and then I'm going to think, you know what?
There's a lot of imperfections.
Well, now there are. Not as the imperfections in my work are very easily seen, but like just the idea that, hey, now that I know, you know, more about the company, more about how the boats are built, that this was somebody's handiwork, that, you know, this is my boat. There isn't another one like it. You know, it's the old, forget what that movie was. Full Metal Jacket. This is my boat. There are many like it, but this one is mine. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about the Northwind series and why it's such a great boat for the Boundary Waters, and a little bit about the boats and I guess who's using them. You know, Ben and I were in the Northwind 20. That's a big boat. Just out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on a couple of guys like us taking a 20-foot boat all by ourselves?
You know, you paddle whatever you like. I mean, that's honestly the best response. I mean, if you guys called me up and said, "Hey, we want to do 10-day trips out of with a heavy load," I probably would have said the Northwind 18 out of the gate. 20 is totally possible. I mean, I took a 20 into the Boundary Waters last year with 950 pounds in it.
Oh.
And
How long was that trip?
140 days.
You had a question about that, didn't you?
Yeah, I wanted to know how you did 47 days without a resupply.
Well, so I'll share two of them then with you. So number one is 47 days without a resupply is a 16.5-foot solo canoe that was built as a solo tandem. And solo tandem means that you could paddle it tandem, you could paddle it solo. So when I left on the trip, it had 2 seats in it. I'd taken out the 3rd seat because I wanted more space. But I had 4 big packs in it. And if you travel without fresh stuff, you know, so if everything's dry, and all I was doing on that trip was going to the grocery store and just buying stuff. So, you know, boxes of granola that I just peeled the cardboard away from, and, you know, you name it, bags of rice, what have you. You can go for a long time. My wife, my son and I did 38 days without resupply. We started from Rainy Lake, paddled across the whole Boundary Waters, did the Grand Portage, went down the shore of Superior, up the Bois Brule, which is in the Wisconsin shore, down the St. Croix and back to our house. That was 600 miles, 38 days. That was in a 17-foot canoe. We were 800 pounds to start with. So
It's unbelievable.
it's amazing what a canoe can bring in. And to say the 140 days was 3 trips with Northwind 20s, about 500 pounds a trip of gear, and then overall it was a 130-day winter camping trip.
How does the canoe do in the snow?
It's a sled.
So, you know, when Ben and I go up in the Northwind 20, we like to put our packs
Down low.
down low. You know, we've always done that, but more so are conscious of that placement of the packs and things like that. Just because we can get out, you know, we're getting ready to go into the Boundary Waters on the 1st of October, 2024. And right now we've got a lot of high winds coming in, you know, 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. So we get on some big water, we're going to get into some big waves. And to prepare for that, we want to keep a low center of gravity. You know, when we're carrying 2 Superior packs and a large food barrel,
Yep.
you know, in a Northwind 18, are those going to fit in there pretty
Yeah.
easy, no problem?
Yeah, you won't get them as flat as you do. I mean, you were putting them right on their backs, I assume.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so instead they're going to go on their sides. And so center of gravity is a big one. I mean, understanding center of gravity is one thing that a lot of canoeists struggle with out of the gate. And they're like, the canoe's tippy. And it's like, your center of gravity is too high. You know, people tell you not to stand up in a boat, but truly it's as long as you keep the nose over the belly button, you're stable. For most people, they just don't understand enough about that, or they don't have a good enough center of balance. But it is possible to stand up on the gunnels of a boat too, without any trouble at all.
We'll have to make a video of that for all of us to see. Because we won't try that out there. Ben might. I won't. So,
But you wanted to talk about Northwind, so let's
Yeah.
talk about the characteristic of Northstars for a second. So what we do is when we design a boat, our goal is to design a combination of seaworthiness and aesthetic quality. You know, so we want to meld those two things. We want performance, but we also want to design a boat that you want to paddle. When people look at it from afar, they say, "That's a nice looking boat," and it's built nicely too. Because part of paddling is simply getting excited about being out there. But when it comes to performance, seaworthiness means that we incorporate a lot of flair into our boats, so they want to ride up and down over the waves rather than knifing right through them. So we're willing to sacrifice a little bit of forward speed in favor of that seaworthiness. We still want an efficient boat to paddle, one that accelerates pretty easily, one that turns fairly easily around corners and things like that. So you guys being in a Northwind 20, if we had made that thing so that it just tracked like a demon, you'd have a lot harder time getting into portages. Whereas you have a lot easier time, you know, if you want to paddle Little Indian Sioux's not a great river, but Moose River North, for instance, you know, one where you got to do a lot of this stuff zigzag, and if you want to go down the Frost, those are places where a boat that has seaworthiness, so the flare, combined with asymmetric rocker, An asymmetrical rocker means more rocker in the bow, less rocker in the stern. So it encourages tracking, but it also still encourages maneuverability because it's got more rocker in the bow. So rocker is just how much uplift those two ends of the boat have, how much of a banana shape it has. Here's a banana shape in real form. You guys just have a little bit of lift on the end of each one of your, on the end of each on each end of your boat, and that's what's creating that maneuverability. So seaworthiness, maneuverability, efficiency, those are biggies for us.
And when you say seaworthiness,
Yeah.
is that also another word for stability?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Secondary stability especially. So two types of stability. Initial stability is, does it feel like a rowboat when you step into it? And if it feels like a rowboat, it's great, but a lot of times that also tells you that it lacks some other design characteristics that we value a lot. So our boats have good initial stability, but they don't have incredible initial stability. Initial stability, like I say, it just feels solid when you do that. Secondary stability is resistance to capsize and to getting rocked around. But truly what it is it makes for a little bit looser boat, one with a little softer chines, one that allows it to move around in the waves a little bit, because if you design a boat that's a box, the waves catch it a lot more, the big flat bottom, which gives you initial stability, but a box is less efficient to paddle because a circle versus a square. And in addition to that, and much more significantly, the waves catch it a lot worse. And so having fair curves, having gentle curvature on the boat means that we have a much more seaworthy boat. And then I mentioned the flare thing again, and so I'm going to go back to that and say the seaworthiness in large part comes from this underwater shape of the boat and then the flare that goes above water. So flare means the boat just keeps getting wider and wider as it goes toward the gunnels. So as you lean it over, it keeps getting wider and wider. So as I get rocked around in the waves, everybody's like, I don't care about leaning the boat over. And it's like, no. It's when it happens to you by accident, when you come around the corner and the waves are big. There's reflected waves when you're in current and all of a sudden things get shifted around. That's when maneuverability, that's when flare, all those things come into play. How well a boat performs in the adverse circumstances that you get surprised by. It's like having a seatbelt. I mean, that's the goal of seaworthiness.
So that kind of tells you a little bit about the Northwind 20 and the Northwind series. Ben and I are firm believers in everything that the Northwind has done for us. You guys see us in that boat on every single trip that we take. You guys have asked us a lot about that boat, and we haven't been able to tell you much about it other than we love it. So the next time you're up in Ely or you're up in the Grand Marais area and you are trying to figure out which boat it is that you want to rent from an outfitter, ask them for the Northwind series boat and get the size that you're needing for the group that is going to be in the canoe. But I can tell you that you will absolutely fall in love with that boat, just like Ben and I did. So I want to say thank you very much for your time and letting us see the facilities here. And once again, as you've noticed throughout the entire video, it's people in here building every single one of these canoes with their hands. And as we talked about the little imperfections and things, they're not actually imperfections, they're just differences that make your boat one of a kind. So I definitely recommend paddling these Northstar canoes and purchasing them. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this portion of our video in getting to know Northstar. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you for stopping by, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Now, would you like to take a look at my handiwork out there? So I'm way down low on the water line.
Yeah, you went lower than you usually do. Well, that's fine. But, you're not bad at all.
You feel the bubbles?
You're fine.
Because I thought about taking like a 1500 grit.
Don't touch it.
No?
Just paddle it.
That's not going to slow us down.
No. Good Lord. The
But,
people that get obsessed by that should spend all their time maintaining their boat instead of paddling it. You're fine.
Yeah, because like here, like I tried to work some of this,
I
the
know.
skid plate. Yeah, hey, look at this. There's some of our
Yep.
our customizations.
Yep, you got it. No, you're fine. It's not
So-
quite this at all.
But yeah,
It looks good.
Obviously,
It really-
you can see I
it
did
looks
two.
fine.
I did
It looks
two.
fine. It looks
Well, I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to hear that. And then, question I do have. So, under my feet on the back, it's wearing down to the cloth
So you mean because of
because when I sit on the seat, my feet
Yeah.
are like this and just moving. So I ended up.
paint resin on? Good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And that's how professionals do this.
There we go. All right.
Nah, just you got nothing to worry about. You're fine.
Perfect.
I mean, it's so. Let me put it this way. Here. I'll give you my own context, and that is I love wood trim. Almost all my boats have wood trim. Wood trim, you have to maintain it. Why do I like the wood trim? Not for the aesthetic purposes, but because it's great in shoulder seasons and because it's quiet. So shoulder seasons means I grab onto it at 34 degrees in the rain. It's comfortable. It's not metal.
Oh, okay.
Quiet means bang something metal against it, it deadens it. So does the carbon. This accentuates it.
Yeah.
So
a good point.
that's why I love the wood. But now I want to get to the maintenance part because we're talking about this. Wood trim, there's people that do furniture grade maintenance on. They sit there and they buff it and they burnish it and they steel wool it. That boat just shines and it's gorgeous. All I do is say, oh, there's a little nick there. I'm just going to sand this little bit and sand this little bit. And they're like, you don't sand the whole thing before you oil it? That opens the grains and makes the oil go in and makes it shinier. And I'm like, I don't care. I just don't want the wood to fall off. So literally all I do is just touch up a few spots, rub Watco around it twice and wipe it off. Once in a blue moon, I'll even get a little run that I'll miss. There's people that go through with masking tape and everything and put hours into their boats.
Yeah.
And you know what? I paddle.
Yeah,
I don't maintain.
This didn't take me,
No.
I followed the thing. I did the 150 grit.
Yep.
I probably had all of this done in an hour and a half
See?
for
Don't
each
worry about it.
for each coat.
It's just paddle.
The first coat I put on it, I felt like, well, it's kind of, I could see some skippers,
Yeah.
and then and I just wanted it to be. I wanted Ben to like it. I wanted it to look good. When he came back and saw my work, I was like, oh, yeah, that looks good. And we had a couple other areas up here.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I mean, it's
on the,
just like
on the front, but
just
where
like
we
when-
gotten into some pretty good rock and split the, really.
cut in.
Well, we were coming up the Horse River last year, and we got into paddling up the little rapids things there.
Yeah.
And we started to go, and so then we got after it, but then we went over a couple rocks that dug in. But turned out pretty good, I think. I was just concerned about my bubbles.
Yeah, it looks good.
So, all right. Well, that's awesome. So, again, man, thanks so much for letting us come out here and see this. It's very cool to see where the stuff comes from when we get to go out in the woods and use it. So, thank you.
Yeah. Now I'm glad you're going out tomorrow.
So,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yep, we get up to it.
That's so we get calls for factory tours every so often, and it's always one of those things where it's like, are you paddling our boats? You're headed for the Boundary Waters right now? Come in, let's do a factory tour. Because it's like we want people that are using the boats, just like why we repair them. I mean, the goal is to see people use them all the time. And so if people are using them, God, we're happy to talk about this tour, all that end of things. It's the people that are like, I'm still researching. I've been thinking about this for 3 years and I haven't gone paddling yet. It's like, don't do that to yourself. Just buy a boat and go paddle. Even if it's not a Northstar, seriously.
Well, we love it. We love the Northstar. So, you couldn't get us into a different boat.
Well, so do I. I mean,
So-
that's David Yost Designs, and yeah, they perform like nothing else.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the site visit as much as we did. And comment below on your paddling experience with Northstar Canoes or others. We'd love to hear everyone's opinion. Until next time, please like and subscribe. We'll see you out there.